guys, welcome back to season 3, episode 1 of Becoming a Living Faith. And I'm super excited to be back. I hope you guys are excited to see me. And this season is going to look completely different from the other seasons. This season is all about obedience and trusting in God. So, what that looks like is I'm not really going to have set time schedules for when I drop episodes. I'm going to drop an episode when it's the most timely, when I feel God is leading me to drop the episode. So please make sure to stay locked in with my content on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok at Becoming Living Faith. So yes, so let's get into today's episode. Today, I'm just going to be talking about what it means for God to be the Son of God. So, as I was reading Mark, the entire book of Mark, I just feel like I was starting to see and just feel what it would feel like if I was in Jesus's shoes, where he just was being completely misunderstood. No one could really see him for who he really was. And also, he faced a lot of rejection from people who were closest to him, and also just people who literally didn't believe in the things that he said he would do actually coming to pass. So you see that throughout the entire book of Mark. You see that with in his hometown. You see that with the Pharisees. You see that with the disciples. So in his own hometown, he went there, and of course he wanted to do his ministry, share the word, probably minister, but he couldn't do it there because in his own hometown, people would see Jesus and say, "Who's that? Isn't that just a carpenter's son? Who's that? Isn't that just so and so's brother or so and so's older, whatever?" They would just see him for who they saw him to be, as he was becoming who he was. But they didn't see him for who he was currently. So they rejected him, and they didn't receive his message. So it really was hard for Jesus to actually perform any miracles in his hometown. So then you fast forward a couple more chapters and we get to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees, one, they reject Jesus, and at the same time they're asking him for another sign. When time and time again throughout Mark, you see Jesus literally healing the blind. He's healing those who are deaf. He's raising people up from the dead. He's performing so many miracles. And you see that from like literally 5 chapters up until the point where the Pharisees are asking him for a sign. So it's clear that one, they've probably seen the sign, they've probably heard of it, but at the same time, they're still asking him to show a sign, showing that one, they don't accept who he says he is, and two, they actually are rejecting his power, and by rejecting his power, they actually have no faith in him. So then we also see this trend kind of continue with the disciples, which is just so sad because these are his closest friends. Like these are the people who are traveling with him. And you can also kind of sense as you're reading through the chapters, like Jesus is almost like sadness and like, um, what is the word? Just like if it was my friend, I would just be like, why can't you get this? And I could also feel like Jesus kind of having that same almost like, okay, I just really want you guys to get this. So what is happening is he's performing these amazing miracles. He feeds the 5,000, and then he also feeds the 4,000. And he takes the loaves of bread and he multiplies it multiple occasions. And he does this in front of the disciples. Now it comes time for the disciples to travel, um, get on a boat and travel to a quiet place. And when they're doing that along the way, they start arguing over bread. And Jesus is like, "Wait, didn't you see me perform that miracle where I fed the 4,000? Didn't you also see the miracle where I fed the 5,000? Do you not understand? Do you not see who I am?" And then he tells them, "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and of Herod." And he's saying this because he wants them to be alerted to the fact that one, they also don't recognize and accept who he is because they have their own idea of who he is. Two, they also are in a way rejecting him because of their not understanding of him, it's also leading them to a place where they are really in disbelief. They don't believe in the fact that he can actually perform the miracles that he says he could perform for others, for themselves. So when it comes time for them to need, bread for themselves, instead of them, one, recognizing who Jesus is and recognizing the power of him that he has, they reject him and they fight amongst themselves. So I feel like as I was reading this whole thing, what was coming to my mind was, okay, so the Pharisees rejected him, the disciples rejected him who were closest to him. What are the ways in which that I am rejecting Christ? I am not believing in him. I am not trusting in him. And I realized that there's a common thread between the two of them, which is them not knowing who Jesus is, his identity as the Son of God, which means that he has all the power in the world to do all things. All things are possible with him. And two, really just having a sense of disbelief in the fact that the things that I see that God does for other people, he will also do for me. So I started to assess myself and I'm like, okay, so what are the things I'm believing for? What are the things I'm praying for that I want to see come to pass in my life? And I think when I pray for the salvation of people around me who haven't received Christ, when I'm also like praying for my own marriage and anticipating that because God has given me a promise. So you guys know I've shared in past videos my testimony of coming to Christ. And part of that journey was me really just um, God filling the void in my life and making me feel whole, making me realize my purpose. And in making me feel whole and me realizing my purpose, I let go of a lot of the patterns and the habits that I used to do, which was just date a lot of different people. And with me letting go of that, God gave me a promise, and he gave me a promise about, how I should be expecting my husband, how I should be hoping to see him. And I've held on to this promise, and it's really literally kept me the past 5 years. I haven't dated anyone, I haven't talked to anyone. I've been focused on my relationship with God. And in that process, um, I've just started to see a shift lately. And that shift is just, I'm learning a lot about marriage. I'm learning a lot about partnership. I'm learning a lot about dating. I'm getting into so many different conversations. And it's making me realize that God is starting to shift something in this area of my life. So, because of that, I started to question. I was like, okay, God, you gave me this promise. I know it's going to happen. I believe it. And I've seen it, that you've done it before for other people. But how is it actually going to happen for me? Like, how will I actually discern when my partner comes if I'm not dating? So, God led me through a process where somehow, some way, He knew I wasn't going to just randomly date somebody. So, He orchestrates events for me to be matched with someone, and I begin talking to an individual, and I quickly just sense that something isn't in alignment here. So I start to pray and I submit it to God. And I'm like, God, something is in alignment here. This doesn't feel like the promise that you gave me. And I also don't feel like you've called me to date. So I've been praying and praying about that. And then all of a sudden, um, a friend of mine comes into town and we have a conversation. And me talking with her makes me realize that all I have to do is continue to hold on to faith. That by my kind of following my own way, I was doubting that God can do something in my life that He said He would do, and that He would do it in the way that I imagined. And I came back to that scripture where it says, God will do exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ask or imagine. So it's like I had the thought in my head and I imagined it, but I actually haven't submitted that thought and that my desire to him. So with that revelation, I was like, oh, so all I have to do is just imagine and believe and have faith that this is the way that I would receive my partner. And you would honor that because you are a God who does exceedingly and abundantly more than I can ask or imagine. And you've already told me that I'm receiving this promise, so I should believe that it's happening. So, of course, I'm going to receive this good thing. Of course, it's going to happen in this way. Of course, I'm going to receive it in a way that's exceedingly and abundantly more than I can ask or imagine. So, I just received that revelation. And more than that, I just realized the importance of just trusting in God, and walking by faith and not by sight. So you can really see that in the next episodes that will be coming up. I don't know when I'm going to be dropping the next episode, but God knows. So I, everything is going to be about just flowing into the God's timing, God's what God wants me to say, his revelations. And on top of that, I also feel like God has been speaking really about sacrifice and me kind of letting go of my own way, letting go of my own timing, letting go of doing things in my own understanding, or making it trying to make it so that my obedience has to be tied to me understanding what he told me to do when he's just God, like I should just do it. So this is me just doing it. And I really hope that this message really just resonates with you guys and resonates with people who feel like, they struggled with trusting in the Lord, struggled with walking by faith, struggled with being obedient, struggled with just believing in the promises of God in their lives. So I just want to say that God, who is the Son of God, if he can heal the blind, heal the deaf, he can raise up the dead, he can heal families, restore families, redeem families, he can save people, bring people back from not knowing him, turning things all around. He can do it for you too, and he can do it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Becoming a Living Faith. Please press subscribe and follow me on all of the channels.